Welcome to our tutorial on Windows LiveWriter. Windows LiveWriter is very cool free software from Microsoft that helps you blog. It handles images really well. It handles text really well. It also allows you to upload movies. Does a lot of cool things. Supports multiple blogs by different vendors. So Windows LiveWriter is software that I use all the time, both on my Particle Wave blog and on all my real estate blogs as well. Let's go ahead and first let's see if we can't find a copy of Windows LiveWriter out there. I can never remember URLs even if they're in a tutorial sometimes, so let's go ahead and just do it the old-fashioned way here. Let's go to LiveWriter. Google. Just go ahead and Google LiveWriter. Actually, we got the right thing even though we did it wrong. And the first thing we come up with is usually the Windows LiveWriter blog. If we scroll down a little bit, we can usually find a link to to one of the releases. Here they're talking about the upgrade to Final. Here's where they're talking about it finally being out of beta. Let's go ahead and click on that download link. And that brings us to the URL. If you like URLs, get.live.com/writer/overview. Actually, I think it's easier to just go ahead and Google it. So let's go ahead and click on Get It Free. And that opens up a place where we can save the installer locally. Let's go ahead and click on OK. Now that it's saved, let's go ahead and say Run It. It's going to complain that it's an executable file. Well, duh, we're trying to install some software, so go ahead and click OK. That's all right. The next thing that's going to come up, it's going to ask you to accept the service agreement and privacy statement. Obviously, you can go ahead and take a look at those. I'm just going to go ahead and accept them. Now, the first thing it does is it wants to make Live Search your default search. It wants to make MSN your homepage. I don't like any of this stuff, so I'm just going to turn all this off. I'm also going to opt out of sending them bug reports. You might leave that last one checked. It's up to you. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Install. At this point, it's going to begin the install. And the install screen is a little bit funny because it almost looks like you need to make more selections, but actually what it's doing is it's doing the install, and I'll show you that in a minute. You can see down here there are other selections to make, but if you look up at the top, it's actually checking right now for existing versions, and it's doing the install. So you don't need to do any of this stuff down the bottom. Just wait a minute when you get to this screen, and it'll install everything you need. It's going to install Writer, and it's going to install something called Sign-In Assistant, which in our case we may not need, but we'll just let it go through the install. Okay. So we don't actually have to wait for it to install Sign-In Assistant. When it says Start Writer here, we can go ahead and click on Start Writer. And that is going to launch the LiveWriter setup screen. Now, the first thing it wants to do once it's installed is it wants to try to set up a weblog. Obviously, that's what you're using it for. Now, the default is to go ahead and create a Windows LiveSpace blog. We're going to assume that you've already got a WordPress blog set up, either by Particle Wave or by some third-party vendor, and that you're going to configure this to work with a WordPress blog that you have, a standalone WordPress blog. So I'm going to go ahead and click on I already have a weblog set up. And it's not a Windows LiveSpaces blog, it's not SharePoint, it's actually another weblog service. In this case, it's WordPress. So we click on another weblog service and click Next. Now, the next thing you want to do, almost final step here, is you just have to remember what your blog's homepage is. So this is the URL of your blog, not your feed, but just your main blog homepage, particlewave.com/internet marketing. Okay, in my case, I'm going to go ahead and set it up to use with my Particle Wave blog. My username is admin. My password obviously is secret. I usually let it save the password. That's half the fun, is you don't have to remember your password to get in again. It'll save that locally, by the way. And go ahead and click on Next. It takes a few minutes, and it'll go ahead and actually detect your weblog settings and figure everything out for you and set everything up. This is an improvement over an earlier version where you had to go in and tell it where the interface page was in WordPress. It was a little more technical. Now it comes back and it just finds out, here's your title of your weblog, of your blog. If your blog title is showing up in this screen, then it probably did the right thing. In my case, Particle Wave Internet Marketing for Real Estate, that's correct. So let's go ahead and click on Finish at this point. Now at this point, you're going to be, it's going to pop you into Windows LiveWriter. The first thing you'll notice, possibly, is that the screen looks a little bit funny in my case. what there is a limitation in the one of the views, the web layout view. So I usually click on view, and I use the normal view for everything that I do. So go ahead and click on view and then normal, especially if it doesn't look correct for you. And then what you're going to have is you're going to have an editing screen. So this is very much like a word processor. You've got your post title here. We're going to go ahead and enter a post about our Windows Live Writer tutorial. So we're going to call it Windows Live Writer tutorial real quickly. Okay, for now, we basically just got this little post, and let's go ahead and, we might as well publish it. One of the neat things, if you click on this categories, set categories link here, you'll notice that Windows Live Writer has downloaded the categories that you have set up in WordPress, which is kind of cool. We're going to go ahead and check this under blogging, and we will go ahead and let's also click on view and properties. And when we click on properties, you can see we get a whole bunch more options here. Not only do we have our categories, which was the first thing we tried, but the other thing we can do here is now we can enter keywords. So let's go ahead and call this Windows Live Writer as a keyword, and we'll do tutorial as a keyword. Once that's all done, we have a couple of options now. We can do file, we can save it only as a local draft if we want, or we can publish it to the weblog, to the blog. So if we click on publish, it's going to publish it to the blog. If we click on save draft, it's only going to save it locally, which is kind of nice in cases where you're not really ready to go live. I'm going to go ahead and make believe I am, even though we're going to put up the video later. And let's go ahead and click on publish. At this point, you can see what it does is it'll pop you up to your blog. It'll actually open up a browser window, and it'll show you the post that you just did. So in a few minutes, we've gotten started, we've configured it, and we've written our first post. A very easy thing to do, and we'll have more Windows Live Writer tutorials coming fairly soon.